Hey, gang. Welcome to Malapascua. Malapascua is a tiny island about 2 kilometers long at the north of Cebu. You'll find white sand beaches and it is yet unspoiled by tourism. To get there is a bit of a trek. We landed in Cebu City Airport, then took a quick taxi towards Cebu North Terminal to jump on a bus towards Maya, north of Cebu. In terms of buses, you've got two options. The cheap one, which I took, or the one with aircon, about 100 pesos more. I would say don't take the cheap one as I did, or if you do, make sure you wear a sport bra, because it can be a bit bumpy. The first half an hour was fun. The driver honks every 30 seconds to say hello to people on the street. And I can tell you, after 4 hours of honking, you go nuts. And the bus stops everywhere. What I'd recommend and what we did on the way back is actually sharing a minivan with other backpackers. The minivans would be much more comfortable and they'll cost you maybe $2 more. Whether it's at the bus station or at the ferry terminal, you can just ask around for the minivans. Once we got to Maya, you jump on this little ferry. It's about 40 minutes to Malapascua. Be careful with the forecast though, because sometimes they do close the pier. On our way back, we were lucky to jump on the last boat. After that, they closed the pier for 2 days, so some people were stranded on the island. In Malapascua, as everywhere in the Philippines really, make sure you have some cash with you. Very, very few places would take cards. And if you can, try to break up your big notes whenever you can to keep some little change with you. Because in many places all across the Philippines, businesses do not have enough change. Even big businesses sometimes, they just don't have enough in the float. So I would say keep as much as you can of little change. Malapascua feels like a little piece of paradise. But as opposed to some places in the Philippines like Palawan, it's still very much authentic. It's not overly touristic yet. At the time of filming, so we are in 2024. Cockfighting is a big part of the culture here, so you'll see some proud cocks everywhere. The origins of the name Malapascua are actually debatable. Mal is bad and Pascua in Spanish would be Easter. According to some, at the beginning of the 1500s, a Spanish boat came here to Malapascua and sadly got stranded because of the bad weather at Christmas time. And they would have said, oh, I hope we won't get stuck until Easter. So that could be the origin of the name Malapascua, Bad Easter. Here is the local graveyard, right on the beach with a beautiful sea view. I visited 8 different destinations in the Philippines on this trip, and Malapascua was one of my favorites. It was also the first one, so we might have been a bit overly enthusiastic, but the island really feels like it's kept its authenticity. There are quite a few tourists around, but not too much. Oh, and if you buy yourself a beer, if they ask small or large, bear in mind large is a liter. Cheers! We have been a bit surprised at first. I expected a small to be a 25 centiliters, and a large to be a pint. Nope. if you go for an early walk, you will hear the cockerels everywhere. Not only in the morning, pretty much all night. You might also spot some rather large fires. Hello. Don't worry, it's the local way of clearing the streets. They'll collect all the dry vegetation falling from the trees and they'll set fire to it. Sometimes it seems quite dangerous because it's very close to their homes and to their kids. I have seen kids playing with fire, but just trust the system. Now, Malapascua is very famous because it's one of the only spots in the world where you can swim with treasure sharks. So it is paradise for divers. I personally do not dive. This footage is from my friend. So if you do dive, it's quite amazing because you can get very close to the sharks. They are not dangerous. They won't attack you. Ideally, you want to be advanced as a diving level. If not, if you are only open water or you're just a beginner, you'd have to pay much more because you'd have to pay for an instructor to be with you at all times. And if, like me, you do not dive, you can also spot some baby sharks at a spot called the Shark Nursery. You can go there snorkeling. I say babies, some of them are the size of my leg. Along the east side of the island, you have a long stretch of white sandy beach. Amazing spot to watch the sunrise. You might think, I'm not a sunrise type of person. Well, I can tell you, when you hear the cockerels all night, you might be up early. There are a lot of stray dogs in Malapascua. You'll find stray dogs all across the Philippines, but there's a particularly high concentration of them in Malapascua. They're very nice though, they won't come at you barking or they won't scare you. So if you're a bit scared of dogs, don't worry about those ones, they won't jump at you or anything. They would follow you though, for a sunrise walk. The tides are quite impressive around here, so when the tide is low, sometimes you end up having to go quite far to go for a swim. See what they've done here, homemade security system. They've taken pieces of broken glass like San Miguel bottles and they literally glued it on top of the wall so people don't jump on the wall to go into the resort. You can book yourself a boat to go island hopping around the island. I have done island hopping in quite a few locations in the Philippines. Malapascua was the cheapest one we found. And that was a private boat we shared with a couple of travelers we met along the way. You can go snorkeling, you can go see the shark nursery, you can go see a Japanese shipwreck underwater. In terms of food, there are quite a lot of nice restaurants on the seafront, but you also have a little square in the middle of the village with a lot of street food and barbecues. So you can choose your fish or piece of meat and see it grilled in front of you. One of the most popular fishes in the area is called milkfish. There are no cars on the island, and you do not need to rent a scooter. You could, if you wanted to rent any motorcycle, you could, but it is not necessary. You can walk all the way around the island in, let's say, 2-3 hours max. The northwest area is quite beautiful and lovely at sunset. And make sure you go and take a look into the church, it's quite beautiful. Malapascua, by the way, was apparently the site of a miracle. It is said that in the 1890s, a piece of wood with a representation of the Virgin refused to burn despite being in the fire. Hope you enjoyed that video, and of course, if any of you have been to Malapascua, and if you have any travel tips for future travelers, feel free to pop them in the comments. Bye!